All right, welcome everybody to another episode of My Good Friends. We're in season 2, episode 4. I don't know. I think we're 4. So this is
4.
great.
I'm agreeing.
4.
I agree that it's 4.
We have a number of guests in the house today. We are. I was thinking it would be good to do something on sales. I keep talking to a bunch of my salespeople friends, and they're, in varying degrees of freak out. So I thought it'd be good to talk about what that is. So at least on my screen to my right is my good friend Doug Lang is in the house. Doug, say hello.
Hello, and thanks for having me, Ben and Tina. I always love these. Happy to be a repeat visitor now.
Yeah, second one. This is good. And Shay to my bottom left. Shay, say hello.
Hello, coming to you live from Nashville, Tennessee.
There we go. Shay Eskew, everybody. And then Pangerho is in the house. Peter Angerhofer, longtime friend, first-time listener, maybe. We're not sure.
First-time speaker,
Peter.
first-time listener. Hey, I'm coming from
first time on the podcast.
Location deep under the ocean.
Yes, it looks like it. For those of you who can't see his video background, it's I think it's a layer of some sort. Yes. Austin Powers, maybe. So I thought it would be good to kind of throw out kind of initial question of what are people doing for sales? I know that with everything that's happening, I've heard from a number of providers that they are just swamped and they don't want to talk to anybody. But as a salesperson, I think that would be just very challenging. So I'd love to hear from a couple of you what your initial thoughts are kind of going into what you're doing in this kind of time. And we'll start with that. Let's just start with there. I don't know, Doug, you want to start maybe?
Sure. I actually posted something on LinkedIn that got an amazing number of hits and shares about trying to put yourself in the shoes of providers right now. I think that's critical in sales, period, is to understand what your customers are going through, where they are in this process. And, I think understanding right now the world we're in. I think in sales, you shouldn't stop working. I mean, we have to survive. And, I'm actually in telehealth right now, and this is booming for us. You almost feel a little bit guilty because right now everyone is trying to implement telehealth services. We're actually very busy. But I think you do have to understand what's going on the ground. I'm very quick to ask them, how they're doing. Is this a good time, where they are in this process? And some it's a very immediate need and they want to do this very quickly. And some, even though you've been talking to them for months, they need to set this aside. And I think you just have to be very conscious and meet them where they are and say, okay, great. Either let's accelerate this because they need to move quickly, or you know what, let's put this on the back burner. I understand a place like Ochsner, 1,000 of their beds is COVID patients. So it's just, they have no bandwidth to do anything else except care for their immediate needs. So I think understanding that, but if you do have a solution that's going to help, I mean, you should be reaching out to your partners and say, we're here for you. We're executing. We're happy to help in any way. And B, if you are selling, you just want to say, once again, I'm here for you. We have solutions that can help in this time of need. Happy to speak with you at your convenience. I do think being opportunistic, obviously price gouging, or trying to sell into an environment where you can add no value is a great way to burn all bridges and tarnish your reputation. So that's what I said on the post, and it got a lot of shares. And, you have experienced salespeople on this call, so I'd love to hear their thoughts as well. But this is a time where you can either build lifelong partnerships or immediately ostracize yourself in healthcare.
I think the challenge, though, with even just sending an email that says we're here for you is just, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it seems like every company I've ever done anything with has sent an email that's like, here's how we're helping you in this crisis. And it's like, at some point, I'm like, I don't really care that, I bought a toy from Mattel for my daughter once, and Mattel is, it doesn't really, it doesn't impact me. So, I mean, maybe, I don't know, it's just may get lost in the noise. I think could be challenging there.
I agree. I think, in line with what Doug's saying, we have basically taken our inside sales force and taken all those efforts and focused on, all right, what are we going to look like in 2-3 months when we come out of this? Now is not a time to be reaching out to prospects. Everybody is sending these platitude email saying we can't relate to what you're going through. We know it's stressful. And I think everybody's getting pissed off that everybody keeps sending that. They're like, look, I'm already getting 100 emails a day. Now I'm getting 200. Please don't do that. We
Right.
all recognize the frontline workers are stressed. And so what we've tried to do is take our team, focus on supporting existing clients, reaching out to them. For me personally, a lot of them you have a relationship with. So rather than sending an email, I'm sending a text and listen, if you have a minute, would love to talk. If not, you tell me when's a good time to reach out. I'm here for you. I don't know what I can do, but I'm willing to do whatever. And so I've had a few providers reach back out and say, hey, look, I'm good, but do you know somebody that could help with this? I had one provider said, look, I'm looking to liquidate some AR. Do you know somebody? And that's obviously not a service I provide. So I was able to reach out to other provider friends, say, look, who are you using? And get an answer back to this VP literally in a matter of 2 minutes, unrelated to a service I provide. So I think that's the key, is just being a resource for them, listening to their challenges, not trying to sell, not trying to add to their workload, but letting them know whatever your need is, I'm listening. I've got a vast resource of friends, other vendor partners out there that I can reach out to. And one VP yesterday summed it up well. He said, Shay, listen, I feel like with my existing vendors, I've probably got 95% of my needs covered. And then in probably the next month, there will be new needs arise because the situation is continually to evolve. Rather than looking through my trash email box of all the cold call solicitations, I'm going to reach out to people like you that maybe I don't have a relationship with now as far as a business relationship, but I trust you as a friend and as a resource. And so I'm going to reach out to people like you to guide me. Who do I need to be reaching out to? So again, it all just comes back to, I think providers are going to be leaning on relationships to help them navigate it, not somebody they don't already have a relationship to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Peter, what are your thoughts? Anything?
Yeah, no, I think that's all right. I think the relationship is the really key part. You have to have trust. So when you talk to somebody, they know who you are, believe what you're saying. And I think the point about like you have to flex towards their needs is really important. So typically we think of ourselves as being revenue enhancers. We're going to bring in more revenue. But right now, one of the things people are worried about is, what if half my staff go out sick? How do I follow up on claims? How do I get patients registered? How do all that kind of stuff? So we're now flexing, saying, well, here's how you could take some of those concepts and apply them to a staffing model or to a cost model, essentially, to help get those things done. So it's you have to be able to have the conversation. Your point, Shay, about being able to send a text message is really important. You have to be able to have that conversation. And I think you also have to be thinking about how you're packaging and presenting your solution in a way that's valuable to them right now, not in 6 months necessarily, but right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Like the whole idea about the junk email somewhere. I always feel like a lot of cases you talk to somebody, they're like, yeah, that'd be cool, but I'm not focused on it right now. And then something happens and it rises to the top, and it might be 6 weeks and it might be 6 months from now. But when it does, they want to grab that. And so I think that's one of the things too, it's important, is like make sure people know it's out there. And if they run into that problem and they want that, then they can grab it because they know it's there.
Right.
And I think, Ben, to piggyback off what Peter's saying, it's even if you can't provide a service to help them right now, it's just reaching out saying, look, how are you doing? Checking in. It's the same as like I call my grandmother every few days, say, hey, Grandma, how are you doing? People love the fact to know that you care about them. How's your family doing? I mean, these people are extremely stressed. They have a lot of demands on them. I actually got my kids involved in writing letters, mailing those to CFOs, just trying to do something different. It keeps my kids engaged. But just reaching out with that human element, right? Just letting them know, hey, I recognize you're a person, and I take a lot of pride in having you as a relationship, and let's focus on that.
Right. What do we think about? Has anyone been reached out to about, I don't know, reducing the cost of a contract or taking a hold, a pause? Like, has that happened to anybody?
We had one client who said we're cutting off all outside spend for right now, and so it was relatively small for us, but I can imagine it would be more significant for others. And they've sort of shut all that down. But again, everybody else is looking for help on our side. We've had more people asking, "Can you take more stuff?" than asking to have less.
I know for us, Ben, one of the things we've seen, obviously, because we're focused on auto and work comp, nobody's driving, everybody's at home. So the volume's
Right.
an impact. And so what we have reached out to and said, listen, we've got additional FTEs. Is there an interest for you in redeploying them to do other areas within your health system? Because they've already got the Epic or Cerner access. So we can actually do billing, follow-up, things outside of our normal scope of business. The fact that we're already an existing partner, they've already set up as a true FTE for them. So we're making those FTEs available to them, at comparable to what their internal cost is. And we've had some good reception on that.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, Ben, that once again, I'm working in the telehealth space, and we actually provide remote patient monitoring that allows hospitals to increase their capacity, improve access, and keep their frontline healthcare workers safe. So it's a vital need for them. And what they're really trying to do, though, is how can we do this at scale, quickly, and economically? So even though we provide more comprehensive packages at a higher cost, I think it's a great way to come out and say, listen, we can do this via BYOD mobile application and roll this out to thousands of people incredibly quickly at a low cost. And we can come back to some of the more expensive options that take more time to deploy. So I think even just getting ahead of that conversation and know that you understand they're in a bind and how can we work together quickly. I'll take the other side of the coin. I do know companies that are gouging right now. I think it's unconscionable, and I think it's you've heard me say it 100 times: pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Yeah, you may make a little more money in the short run, but it's going to come back to bite you. I think it's a horrible practice.
Yeah, I heard a couple stories of hospitals getting using a broker to acquire masks, and they gave the broker money, and the broker disappeared.
Yeah, you're hearing 800% markup on PPE. It's awful. I don't know how people can do it.
So yeah, no, you're right. I love that quote. Do that quote again. What was that quote? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Hogs get slaughtered. I learned that when I was a trader. If you have something that's a winner,
boom,
sell it, put some cash in your pocket, you hold it and try and go for the moon. You end up usually going straight down. So just take your winnings, be happy you're busy. To Shay's point, be happy you have great partnerships, are getting there for a long time. And the second you start thinking short term, you're dead.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, speaking of short term versus long term, what's the long term? I know, Shay, you talked a little bit about long term play. Like, what does it look like coming out of it? I think what can people be doing? I know there's a number of salespeople probably freaking out, right? Because they got to make a margin, or they're new to the job. Like, Doug, you're new to the job, so what? I think this is your first week, so that's always fun. What advice? I mean, what would you say to someone, like, how do they keep the long picture in? I think that's probably the question, maybe.
So number one, be happy you have a job.
True.
I think you do have to look at the little things. Like, once again, there are a lot of people who are a lot worse off. So I'd say be happy you have a job. Once again, I am starting. This is my first week, and I think it's actually decent timing to just have the ability to be onboarded, and I'm not firing out emails. I'm just sort of learning the ropes of the company. I've been in the industry, but I just sort of changed companies. And then just be, once again, sort of tactical about how you go about making initial introductions, or even trying to line up some initial meetings. Once again, I think you just have to understand where they are. I'm writing very short, notes about understanding what's going on, but make a quick introduction here, and I might have solutions that could help. And I think Peter made this point about, even if they don't have the time now, they're going to have time later. I mean, this will subside. They're in their foxhole right now. This will subside, even if it does pick up again, which they're predicting, where they'll be able to come up and breathe. They're going to have to implement some solutions to deal with the next wave, and either your name, your email, your contact will be at the top of their mind. So even if for me, it's reaching out saying, I am the sales director of the Southeast. Here's the solution that I think can help in this crisis. I understand what you're dealing with right now, but when you have time and bandwidth, I'd love to connect. I think that's a good start. And once again, in my case, you actually are getting a lot of inbound leads as well, so I'm a little bit more fortunate. But I think there is some groundwork you can do during this crisis, even if you've just started. But once again, don't be that eager beaver who's just out there firing emails trying to grab onto something because you're more concerned about getting off to a quick start. I think I was a VP of sales. Anyone who leads a sales department will understand, the current environment, and if it takes you a little bit longer to build some business. I mean, anyone that doesn't and holds you to your quota, you might want to find a new job when this is all over with.
Or sooner. Yeah, that might not last for long. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that like we, Tina and I are in the event space, if you will, with our forum, and we're just I'm getting bombarded by emails of people who like take your event virtual, and I keep getting this one, and I don't know who it is, but I'll tell you this. I think it's funny. They keep emailing me like, you haven't responded to my last email. I've done a ton of research on RCM Leaders Forum, is what they say. And I know your business and all this stuff. And I'm like, really? I bet you wouldn't even know what revenue cycle is. Like, that's what I bet. So don't tell me you've done a bunch of research. You would know that my event actually doesn't really work in a virtual format. It's not how it works. So you would have known, that's not the thing we're doing, So I just find it fascinating, and you could kind of tell it's like this, mechanized email process. But I just find it fascinating. Is like almost getting rude with me, like you have not responded to my email.
Hey, Doug. Sorry, go ahead, Shay.
Oh, sorry. I know for me, as far as my plan, I look at it the same as I would like for training for a marathon or anything like that. I'm taking a long-term approach. Right. I know what I need to be doing every single day. So this is not an excuse for me to skip my training. It's not an excuse for me to slack off on my diet. It's not an excuse for me to sleep in every day. If anything, it's a time for me to be more regimented, to take control over the things that I can control, and just do what I need to be doing every single day. Like, I know I need a business plan. I know I need a playbook. I know if I want to be a successful sales leader and have a successful RCM company, we need to be focusing on branding right now, making sure that everything that we're doing is reinforcing what we stand for. We're an advocate for the patient. We're an advocate for the hospital. So make sure that everything I'm doing every single day reinforces that. So this gives me the time to go back and reflect on what we have been doing, making sure that it's matching up. But it's also an opportunity for us to pivot. I've been saying for a while that the sales model of I'm going to send 10 emails, 3 phone calls doesn't work. You got to look at what can you do differently than what you've been doing the past few years. This is a great opportunity to reinvent it. There is no playbook for this, right? So if there is no playbook, it means you can't fail, right? As long as you keep experimenting, trying something new, looking at ways to reinvent how to get better. And that's why I'm embracing this as a way to leverage social media. You'll see I'm putting a lot more stuff out there on LinkedIn, trying to reinforce. Right now, we need mental health. We need people focused on positivity. Quit reading the news, because if all you do is consume negative feedback, your brain's going to every day go look for things that reaffirm your bias for everything is going to hell, right? So if you focus on positive things, your brain will start seeking out things that will contribute to positive outcomes. Just like I'm doing a lot more podcasts now. I'm doing more videos, my burpee videos.
I see him every day. I'm like, yeah, that sucks.
I'm on a phone call every morning at 4:30, 7 days a week for the last 20 days straight. I've committed to doing this till the self-containment period ends. Was I excited to sign up to be on at 4:30? Hell no, right? But when somebody said, look, let's do it. This is a commitment that's going to stretch you. So I'm all in. And on the phone call this morning, we had over 100 people from all over the world. We had Singapore, we had China, we had UK, we had Spain, we had Italy, we had Argentina, all on this phone sharing, here's what's going on. So I really believe the more that you're willing to stretch yourself, to get comfortable being uncomfortable, when this is over, you're going to be a much better business leader as a result.
Well, I think the point of like, for companies especially to be able, especially ones that have affected where their volumes slowed way down or their amount of work is slowed way down, it would be an opportune time to reevaluate everything they're doing, right? Not just from a marketing perspective, but from just how they're doing ops. Like I was just talking to the group that I've been helping a while last year with dental, and their dental volume's gone to zero basically, right? I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like right now. But I was like, hey, they've been talking about switching their EMR over, right? I'm like, now would be a perfect time. You don't have any patients, like hardly, you don't have emergency patients, but you don't hardly any patients. Like it'd be perfect. And he's like, yeah, it's exactly what we're, probably going to go down the road of doing. It's like you have this like built-in time. Yeah, you're not going to make a bunch of revenue, but you had to do it anyways. So you might as well get it done while you don't have those things happening, or reevaluate the way the marketings work. I don't know, Tina, go ahead, Peter. Go ahead, Peter.
I think that's a really key point because when this does subside, when this does end, I think all kinds of things are going to be different, right? At the most basic level, from a provider perspective, you're going to have a whole bunch of pent-up demand. All these people that want to go to the dentist or who had some elective test or surgery, whatever they got postponed, they're all going to want to get it very quickly. And so we've been talking to our clients about right now you're sort of shifting away from that elective outpatient stuff and you're really focused on the ER and the COVID stuff. But when it ends, it's all going to flip again. You got to go back and be ready for that. So that's one, like, it's going to be a short-term problem, but it's going to be a problem. The other,
right.
The other thing is I think there's all kinds of things shifting about society. Like, are we going to all fly someplace for meetings or are we going to do more Zoom? Like,
Yep.
Clearly that's going to shift. Doug, you mentioned the telemedicine, right? Like, if people get used to it, won't that be a bigger opportunity going forward? And think about the generational shifts. Like, for the younger generations, this kind of interaction is totally normal. They have zero discomfort with it. So won't that be a bigger and bigger thing? And so there's
Right.
all kinds of changes coming that people should be preparing for now, not just operationally, but like if you think about it from a sales perspective, how do I help meet those needs? How do I help make that transition? And how do I help, again, package my product, whatever it is, in a way that meets those needs as well, meets that change in behavior.
And Ben, I think in support of what Peter is saying, we know the model is going to change. Nobody knows exactly what it's going to look like. But every provider I've talked to said, look, we had always prepared for a 30, maybe 40% work from home force. Now we're at 90, 95%.
Yeah, right.
So basically we ripped the Band-Aid off, right? We were postponing doing this stuff, but now we had to do it and it's working. So now they're thinking, all right, when this ends, the self-containment, how much of that 90, 95% do we bring back in the office? Because a lot of people won't come back. And most people are saying they're seeing an increase in productivity as a result of them working from home. Their staff meetings are shorter, more productive, as opposed to being in person. So what does that look like? Are you going to see people doing more insourcing? Are they going to do more outsourcing? I just think everybody's going to reevaluate everything, right? Nothing is going to be assumed that this is the way we've done it in the past. We'll keep doing it. This is an opportunity to reevaluate everything. No stone is going to be left unturned.
Yeah, once the genie's out of the bottle, this is what Marge's point was on our webinar. Like, it's hard to put it back in, I do think, Shay and I talked about this, I do think that this would, for a lot of CFOs, this will be it's a much easier leap to outsource things when there's not people and Susie's not down the hall. I mean, honestly.
Just like an anecdote about that, we had a client that went from 0% work at home to about 85% work at home over the course of several days. Like people brought in their laptops and they set them up. And to your point, productivity is up significantly, like not 1 or 2%, like 20 or 30%.
Yeah, the one thing Marge did say was that quality, over what their experience was, that quality has, they saw a similar increase in productivity for people, but quality goes down. So that's one thing you got to watch out.
I sort of smiled because I was literally going to use that exact phrase. And I did a LinkedIn post talking about you can't put the genie back in the bottle. And it was on a doctor saying he did his first full virtual clinic and he loved it. And I have lots of clinician friends in Charlottesville because for a small town, we have lots of healthcare systems. They're all saying the same exact thing, that they're doing the first virtual clinics. They absolutely love it. There is no going back. David Shulkin said that it's like someone waved a magic wand and all the years of all the roadblocks to telehealth all vanished.
Right.
And to Peter's point, it's going to be a brand new reality. There's going to be winners and losers in it. But once again, in the telemedicine space, I think people are like, wow, this works. This is more efficient. This is less costly, and we love it. By the way, when this all settles, they are going to put HIPAA back in place. You're not going to be able to just use your FaceTime. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for, companies like ours.
What's wrong with that? I don't see what the issue is.
Exactly. And put in secure platforms. So I just think, you can't be like, oh, by the way, now that that's over, let's go back to the old world. There is no old world anymore. It's only the new world. Even post-vaccine and everything, I think just people understanding that a situation like this could actually happen. I mean, no one could have imagined this. It's out of a movie. That just knowing that this is potentially on the horizon again, they actually have to position themselves for it.
Yeah.
Well,
I know, Tina, what's your thoughts?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, first of all, I just love the fact that all of you are kind of talking about what I've been saying since day one, and poor Ben has had to listen to too often. That looking at all of this as an opportunity, right? Like it's a chance to do things differently. It really is. And I was just thinking, like, to invoke the words of our good friend David Farbman, like it's an opportunity to pivot, as Shay said, right? It really is. It's a chance. I was just talking before we got on this call with one of my clients, their craft vodka distillery, and they've moved into making hand sanitizer because their clients asked for it, because there was none. And so they went to the CDC and said, what do we need to do? And now they've kind of morphed for the moment into making that. Apparently finding aloe for it is difficult. But I think, like, to look at this all as a chance to spend time with your kids and get to know what they're thinking, a chance to connect with your family, connect with your clients, and really, like, kind of, and I know for some people this is like the most grating thing you could say, but like kind of make the most of a bad situation.
Well, I think if you listen, I mean, Tina was in this. We did a podcast on the hero's journey. If you guys haven't listened to it, I would highly recommend it. But part of that was that it is a chance for new things, but it's also like an acknowledgement that there's something has to die, not in a literal sense, like so like Shay, you said it earlier about the playbook doesn't work anymore. But there's going to be a bunch of people who are like, I don't want to do anything different. Or I don't know how to do anything different, or I'm not acknowledging the fact that doesn't work anymore. And it's almost, I think, would be a disservice if we left this and it was like, no one acknowledged the fact that there was this, that the way things were don't work anymore, or shouldn't work anymore, or for whatever reason. Like, I shouldn't have to go to my doctor for a routine exam. I should be able to do that through virtually. There's no reason, unless I'm going to a skin doctor and I'm getting my skin checked. I mean, maybe that's, like that'd be one, because I have that coming up and I canceled that. I rescheduled it. But I think, like, it is an opportunity to pivot. I 100% agree. I just think it's like, acknowledge the fact that something you had or did was working, but it isn't going to work anymore. It seems like that would be a crucial step.
Yeah. And Ben, I think it's also a time for true leadership to emerge, right? It's when somebody or a country is in a true crisis that the true leaders emerge. A lot of people can lead when the times are good. It's when the going gets tough that it requires somebody that's a motivator, out of the box thinker. That's when it's a game changer. You think about Ernest Shackleton. We wouldn't know about Ernest Shackleton had he and his crew not been frozen in Antarctica for 2 years. Churchill, we got World War II to thank for introducing us to Churchill. And so I think it's a great time for companies that have truly great leadership to rise above the others. The mediocre companies, I think, will fall by the wayside because they don't have the leadership to get through the tough times. And so that's why I'm excited. I mean, to me, this is kind of what I live for, is for these kind of moments of adversity, because it's an opportunity to, again, what's been done in the past doesn't matter. It's a clean slate. So you can figure out what kind of sales leader do you want to be? What kind of salesperson do you want to be? Now's the time to set that, right?
Right. Excellent. All right. Anything else we want to cover? I think we did good this time. Shorter than our normal, but I don't know. Anything else? Tina, Doug, Peter, Shay?
I did just want to say that I think it is actually episode 3. Just for clarity purposes. It's episode 3, not 4.
So okay, Doug, you can't hear Tina and Tina can't hear you. That's not good, but I can hear both of you. So why don't Doug, you go first?
Actually, I feel like this is a good marriage. How can I put this in my home?
Doug said, I think this is a good marriage.
Nice. Right.
So, yeah. Anyway, I was just going to say, I think this whole call started off as salespeople are freaking out. And I think all of us touched on that, the people that are able to navigate these tricky times, that are true professionals, they can still see the long term. We're going to see the other end of this. And once again, there are going to be some winners and losers, but I think you just need to stay calm, continue to execute. But I don't think people should be freaking out. I don't think you should be also operating status quo. I think, to Shay's point, and Peter, I think there's a new norm. You have to be able to adjust and pivot. And you shouldn't be afraid to sell, though, would be my one point. I think you have to do it in a new way and be very conscientious about it, but don't be afraid to sell, especially if you have real solutions. And I think that's what people are grappling with, where there's this yes or no. And I don't think it really doesn't live in either of those realms. It's sort of like you have to sort of figure out how to do it. So I think, once again, for salespeople, step back, think, pivot, and execute, but there's a way to sell in this environment.
That's easy to say for the guy who's selling telemedicine. Just want to point that out.
Yeah, I'm bringing off the hook, guys. I gotta end this.
I gotta handle these phone calls. I gotta return.
Good luck with the revenue cycle, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
No, I think you're right. I agree with that entirely. I think it's about you have to maintain the relationships and maintain the flow of communication.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not a yes/no question, I guess, or answer, which is probably, it's more complex than that. It depends on what you have, depends on what your relationships are.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, it depends on your sales cycle, right? If you're selling something at a trade show by handing out a brochure, that probably slows down a lot. But at least for us, our sales cycles are long. Like 6 months is not unusual, and we've had 18-month sales cycles. So if you have a couple month disruption, it's a bummer, but it's not really changing the overall process.
Yeah, right. Extends it by a couple of months.
For me, like, I'm reaching out to all my other vendor friends, talking to them daily. What are you seeing? What are you doing? What's not working? Did you get a pissed off email response from somebody? Can you forward me your email? Seriously, like, we're sharing emails to figure out, hey, this kind of language is very offensive, or this wasn't. Here's the text you sent. You got some responses. Because I know for the work that we do, unfortunately, I'm not telehealth, so my phone's not ringing off the hook. And I know that what I do is about 3 to 5% of the revenue. So it's not going to get their attention right now. And so that's why my value is focused on, can I be a resource for you? Can I connect you with somebody else? Can I put you in touch with Doug, to talk about telehealth? Glad to do that. Just trying to be a true partner, like a friend, to support what they may need, even though I can't provide it. Because I think when things do get back to whatever the new normal is, people will remember those that were reaching out, not from a self-service standpoint, but we're truly trying to facilitate getting back to business as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had this
That's a great
guy
point.
in high school. We had this like visitor in high school when I was like a junior or something. And I'll never forget him. He was one of these guys, my teacher brought him in as economics class. And he was, I don't know, he was young. He was like 28 or 30. And he was wealthy already, right? Like super wealthy. And he was like, you guys want to know what the secret is to like make, being wealthy, being rich? You want to know what the secret is? And I was like, I was ready with my pen. I never write anything down. I was like ready to write it down. He's like, it's real simple. Just add value to people. Always add value to people. Just continue to add value. Even if you don't get paid, add value. And he was just like, that was it. That was the secret. He's like, eventually it'll come around. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But you added value to people. I was like, oh, I was like waiting for the real. I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be something like, different than that. But I always thought it was great. It's like, add value. However you can.
Hey, I have a little
Excellent.
bit of a counterexample, like what not to do. I was talking to a CFO who said they got an email from a vendor partner kind of person saying, hey, we have this thing we want to talk to you about. I'm going to send you an invite for 10 o'clock on Thursday. The CFO was like, there's zero chance that I'm actually picking up the phone at 10 o'clock on Thursday to talk to you. So it's back to that point about like maintaining the relationships and being respectful. That was a misstep on that person's part.
But that didn't work in the old. That doesn't go well in the old world. Saying someone's calendar, I'm going to send you a calendar invite for 10 a.m. Be there. Like that's not.
I can also tell you, don't send the email that says, "Did you not see my previous email?"
my personal favorite.
Yes, I've gotten probably 5 of those in the last 2 days. You must have missed my previous email. See my offer below.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep missing it.
but I can tell you,
a political candidate who I got on the email list for, and for a while I was getting 2 emails a day. And one in the afternoon would say, just wanted to update you from my morning email. And I was like, I didn't read the first one, so there's no update involved.
You don't need to update me on the morning email.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedules. I know at least Doug's really busy. What the rest of you guys, but it was great, and I hope it adds value to everybody that listens. And again, just keep your heads up and acknowledge the things that are going to change, and it's time to pivot. Maybe that's probably the summary of all of this.
I gotta go.
Hey, thanks everybody.
The laser beams on their heads. So.
you guys get your burpees in today.